Welcome to Finding the Magic. Today I have LL Hunter with me from Australia. What time is it there, LL?
Hi. It's about lunchtime, midday.
Lunchtime. Okay, it's almost 8 p.m. at night here, so that's a little weird. But I love having guest authors, and you write in all the genres I love, so I can't wait to hear about all your books. So tell me what those genres are, just for our listeners.
So I write in both young adult and new adult, contemporary and fantasy. There's also a bit of crossover with dystopian as well.
Oh, wow. We write in all the same genres. We're like sister souls here. Why did you start writing?
Um, I started writing because it's just something I always did as a teenager. I've always written like stories or song lyrics, lots of things. But I started writing my first novel. I was going through a bit of a tough time in my life about 2012, where I lost my puppy dog and my cousin within a couple of months of each other, and I was studying at college or university, going through exams, and I was really stressed, and I just sort of had a little mental breakdown. So I quit my course, and then I just had some time off, and then I just started having these vivid dreams, um, my my character Scarlett and her love interest Diston in the Chronicles of Fire and Ice. That's how my first novel sort of came to me, is through these dreams. And then I at the time I was like going through this thing where I was like I love like reading about Nephilim and angels and demons and all that. I was reading like everything that's out there. And then I couldn't find anything that was like set in Australia or, you know.
That
So
is
I,
so cool. Yeah,
yeah,
that's my. I'm kind of getting chill bumps hearing you talk about your dream and how that's you started your book.
yeah, it was
So
really eerie.
your books are set in Australia.
Some of them, most
Okay.
of them are, some of them are made up, like some of the fantasy ones. Like I have epic fantasy one that's set in a whole made up country, basically.
My most recent fairy story is set in Australia, but in Middle Earth. So it's under our Earth, but I had to do a lot of research on Australia because it pretty much mirrors their world, pretty much mirrors ours, except they don't have computers, electricity, or technology or anything like that. But I did a lot of work research on Eastern Australia mostly because that's where my characters are set. But
Yeah, that's where I live. So I live this north of Sydney.
okay,
Um, yeah, that's
fun. So tell me the setting and the storyline for the Fire and Ice book that you were talking about. Did I get that right? Fire and Ice?
the Chronicles of Fire and Ice. Yeah, I
Chronicles
just
of Fire.
most people just call it Fire and Ice. So yeah, it's mainly set in Melbourne, Australia. Scarlet, it's about a school for Nephilim, for angels, where they go and learn how to be angels, how to hone their sort of magical powers. Each Nephilim has their own unique ability that comes, it sort of appears when they reach a certain age. um, there's also, so Scarlet is like was the legend. This legend that is there's no more archangels left, and basically they've all been murdered or just have died out, and the world has been like taken over by Nephilim and angels. So there's basically not many humans left as well. Um, so the world building was really cool to think of, like what would they do, like would they drive or would they fly or um yeah. So basically Scarlet is the it turns out she um has archangel blood, and then so there's this sort of the bad guys are they're called the Luciferites. They're sort of um they look up to Lucifer. They're all demons, and they want Scarlet for their own personal gain.
Oh wow. Yeah,
And then
I'm
and
loving this. So I'm gonna definitely have to pick up this series.
there's Diston, who's her love interest, and who will do anything to protect her. But it's this conflict of interest. So Diston's brother is the leader of the Luciferites.
Ooh. So we have a little bit of a Romeo and Juliet, right, type scenario.
Yeah, it's very
interesting. Super fun. I love that. So that's one series, the Fire and Ice series. And tell me about some of your other books.
Yeah, so I have quite a few. I'm a bit prolific. I've got a young adult mystery series that's more contemporary. It's more like a cozy mystery, sort of romantic suspense. It's set in like a basically, think of it like Pretty Little Liars, or like Outer Banks, that show on Netflix. Kind of like that. It's very there's lots of murder mysteries. It sets around this small town, sort of in New Haven, sort of upper New York sort of areas, like fictional though. So, and then there's all these series of murders that happen, and the main protagonist, she thinks of herself as a little bit of a Nancy Drew. So she's like a darker version of that. So she's like thrust into the middle of and trying to investigate what's happening, and also she thinks of herself as like the social outcast, sort of a pariah, and then she falls in love with like the sort of the popular guy, so this really handsome sort of jock guy that everybody loves. So she's got to deal with like the high school angst as well as the murders.
Wow. Yeah, I love Nancy Drew when I was younger, and I think I read almost all of her books, or all of the Nancy Drew series. But so the one that I've read recently is One of Us is Lying, which was really intense. Have you read that book?
I love that book.
Oh, it made my stomach turn, but I have teenagers, so it kind of made my stomach turn that these teenagers were like so mean and so hateful to each other. And I know she took the care, you exaggerate characters and personalities a lot of times when you're writing, but it was just, I liked the story and I didn't like the story. So there were like both parts of me on that.
Yeah. So that series is kind of in the same vein as that.
Oh, okay. Interesting. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, and did I read this right? You have over 50 books?
Yeah, I just finished writing the 50th. It's
wow, congratulations.
Like 46 published, I think.
Okay. And do you publish all of a series at one time? Like, do you write the whole series and then publish them all, or do you release them one by one?
Yeah, as I sort of write them, at the moment I'm working on 2 series. So that one and another one which is set in the sort of Nephilim universe.
And do all your like fantasy series continue each other, or do you have one wrap up and then start a different one?
Yeah, so the Nephilim universe, which starts with the Chronicles of Fire and Ice, and it actually spans 4 series, but it's part of one big universe. Yeah, so they're all connected.
Okay. Yeah, I just sort of started. My fairy story is like a takeoff of my first urban fantasy series, and because I feel like I can't let anything go. So I love these characters so much. I'm like, okay, well, I have to continue their story somehow.
Yeah.
So doing those offshoots is a lot of fun. And I think for people that love your world, they'll just like keep coming back.
I don't know, it's intentional. Sometimes it's not intentional. Sometimes it's intentional to add a little Easter egg in there for an upcoming series. Then you find like you get these plot bunnies, and then it spans off.
Right. Do you plan out the whole series before you start writing them? Do you know what's going to happen in each book before you start?
Yeah, like the overall arc, pretty much know from the beginning what's going to happen at the end, but some things do change. Their characters don't always like to behave. And yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much.
I have a character that was supposed to be a bad character that I couldn't end up letting him be a bad character, and he ended up with his own book somehow.
Don't you just love those characters?
I do. So if you're gonna pick, like, I know it's really hard to do, but if you're gonna pick one favorite character from one of your books, who would that be?
Oh, I, um, I'll probably go with Scarlet because she was the first character that came to me in the Chronicles of Fire and Ice. I put a lot of myself in her. At first, she's a little bit naive. Like when I was growing up, I was a bit naive about everything as well. But then she went through a lot of hardships to sort of find herself, and I found like I was growing with her as it was going on. So yeah, yeah, I think I'd pick Scarlet.
That's neat. That's very cool. I have to look at my cliff notes so I can remember the questions I was going to ask you. Who are your favorite authors?
Oh, I read a lot of different things. Mainly, I love my passion is like young adult fantasy. Cassandra Clare, Casey or Bond. Just anything. I read a lot.
I do as well. Those are two of my favorite authors. And so you have the fantasy series and you have some contemporary romance as well. Is that true? Can you tell me about those?
Yeah, so I have a couple of contemporary romance series. One is set in Australia. It's based in like a college university setting. That's like it's got the sort of the new adult angsty romance, but schoolwork and that sort of thing that all comes with navigating college life. So that was really cool, and I loved setting that in Australia too. Like I said, there's not many that are set in Australia. I also have this Hollywood romance series, My Written in the Stars series. It's a little bit steamy, but it's, the first book, Woman in the Photograph, starts out in Australia because Chloe is an Australian journalist. She works for like a entertainment column, and then on an assignment, she ends up meeting a movie star, an American movie star, and then one thing leads to another, and then her life just gets sort of thrust into the sort of limelight, and then secret photos are leaked, and yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I haven't like dove into that type of I guess like ripped from the headlines books yet. So
it was really fun sort of reading that, like writing that series too, because I made up all these like fake headlines. It was really funny. I had to like, I don't normally read tabloids or like those trashy gossip mags, or I don't really watch a lot of those sort of entertainment programs, but I had to sort of research because I made up a lot of these fake headlines.
that is super cool. The only time I read those is usually when I fly on a plane. For some reason, that's like my guilty pleasure. I buy like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
But I don't even know I could tell you who the stars are now. So that's kind of sad.
Don't ask me. Yeah.
Unless they're in a fantasy movie or a fantasy book, I'm not sure who they are. What are your favorite TV series to watch?
Oh, I don't know. I watch pretty much everything. As sort of you might find it weird, but as sort of a thing, as a comfort thing, I like to watch true crime. I love
Oh,
true crime junkie at night. It just, I don't know, it's something about the narrator or something. It makes me fall asleep. So if I'm not tired or something, if I want to relax, I just watch true crime.
a lot of people like that show. I haven't watched it yet, but and a lot of people, I think, especially the past year, have had their favorite things that just they
Yeah.
help them relax and they can watch over and over and they know what to expect from them. So it is comforting in that way.
I've also been rewatching. I've seen it like a few times already. Like it's just my other comfort thing is I've been rewatching Shadowhunters.
I haven't seen that one yet, so that's really
Yeah.
on my list though. I've heard it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And am I right or not? Have you written some dystopian books? It sounds like Fire and Ice is a little bit dystopian and
Yeah,
futuristic, but
yeah, yeah. It's set in the sort of near future, or in the future. Imagine if angels took over the world.
that is very cool.
Yeah, I've got a couple of dystopian ones as well. I've got the Aqua Saga, which is set in a sort of underwater dystopian society where everyone's sort of and it's got a lot of sort of genetic engineering and sort of sci-fi elements to it. So it's a little bit military as well. So you can just um, so Kim, my main protagonist, her father is like the general in their sort of country. So he's like a bit of a dictator and he likes to experiment.
Oh, interesting. So can they breathe? Or do they breathe water, or are they like in pods under the water?
Well, they can, but in the main city, it's like they can breathe sort of underwater. But if they can go swimming and hold their breath longer than normal people.
Oh, okay. So they
So
have like cities with air in them under the water. And is the whole earth been covered by water? Is that why they've
yeah,
adapted to this?
yeah,
Interesting. Talk about, rising seas and global warming or climate change, I guess.
exactly.
Fun. That sounds like a lot of fun. I would definitely pick that one up as well. This
Yeah,
is
and then
my favorite question to ask my author guest. What do you like readers to come away from your books? And you can have different things based on the different series. So this might be a long answer, but
I basically just want people to sort of have an escape from their mundane life. I know we're going through a pandemic at the moment. I know for me, I like to escape into books, into fantasy worlds. I like to watch something that's not reminiscent of what we're going through. So I hope readers are getting that from my work, especially the more fantasy series. And also, I want especially young readers to um, believe that they can do anything. So if you want to be a writer, if you want to do anything, like go and fulfill any sort of dream, you can do it.
and it seems like you're a pretty good example of that. If you've been writing since you were in, I guess, do you call it college in Australia or university?
University, college, or even younger when I was in high school, when I was like 16, I used to write too.
Very cool. And what platforms do you write on? Have you published any Kindle-vella? Have you gone into that, or are you just strictly ebook right now?
Oh no, I'm not on Kindle-vella or anything. I just like normal. My books are on Apple, Kobo, Barnes and Noble, Amazon in paperback and ebook. I do have some audiobooks, but I decided not to do anymore.
Oh, okay. So which series are on audiobook for my
Pardon?
listeners? Which
Yeah.
series are on audiobook?
The Adelaide Page Saga, which is like more of a adult cozy mystery, and the Chronicles of Fire and Ice. So I've only done one book so far, and then I've got one of my real little short stories, The Dragon Heart Keeper. That's also a free ebook as well, and that's the start of my Dragonheart series. So it's a fantasy series that sort of has a lot of different mythical creatures like dragons and witches and fairies and vampires.
Oh, that sounds super fun. I am going to download that one right after this, and that will be my bedtime read, I think. So that's really cool, so that listeners or readers can check out your work for a little free short story. Those are always super fun. So what else do you want people to know about you or your life, or what you might do outside of writing?
Just to a little known fact, people might not know, I've said it a couple of times on social media, but and I'm quite open with it now. I used to not be, but I actually have a learning disability. I on the autism spectrum and have anxiety, and I actually was born with low vision. So yeah, it's another barrier to sort of work through in publishing and writing.
And being on a podcast like this, I can imagine. And I have to say, kudos to you, because a lot of my podcast guests, I say, hey, do you want to record the video as well? And they're like, no, I just want to talk. I don't want to be on a video. So thank you so much.
I normally would have done that, but I'm like, oh no, I've got to put myself out there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's so much fun. I'm going to refer back to my little questions here. Do you have writing goals for yourself? It sounds like this is a full-time gig, right?
Yeah. Now, during the lockdown, we're in lockdown at the moment. I do have another job, but it's just part-time. I work at a theatre in Sydney. At the moment we're closed. But yeah, so pretty much been focusing on my other job. So yeah, this is what I love to do.
That's amazing that you've written 50 books in about 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 5 books a year. That's really cool. Yeah, I've been publishing for almost six years now, I guess. So not that many books written. What comes next for you? What are you writing right now? And what are the books that are going to be published next in your world?
So I'm working on the 4th book in the Ebony Angel series, which is part of the Nephilim universe. It's called The Goddess Apprentice, and I don't want to give anything away for people who haven't read that series. Yeah, so that's what I'm writing at the moment, and that'll be released next year. The next book that's going to be published, though, is Cruel Summer, which is the 3rd book in my Summervale series that comes out on September 30.
And what type of book is that?
That is young adult mystery, cozy mystery.
The mystery. Okay. Very cool. I don't know if you're going to get me to those mystery murder things. I tend to be a little squeamish, as you can tell.
Well, I also studied forensic science in college, so I'm used to it.
Oh, that's very cool. So do you bring a lot of your background in that into your books then?
Yeah, especially if you read the Adelaide Page saga, there's a lot of what I learned in there, because she's a pathologist, forensic pathologist.
Oh, fun. That is super fun. And do you have any other background that you bring into your stories?
I don't know. I have a dramatic art sort of background as well. I've always been creative, writing. I was a singer. I was in a band years ago, but we just didn't have time to rehearse, so it sort of just fizzled out. It was kind of like a folky cover band, folky pop thing with my best friend. We just played lots of covers. I also used to write song lyrics, a whole lot of things.
That is super fun. Yeah, I am always so impressed with people that are creative and do those performing arts. My background is in science as well, and I would have never thought I would have been a writer until maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I finally was like, okay, I'm doing this. Yeah. Because my brain is just, I always felt it was so science, and is that left brain or right brain? I always get the two. But I always felt so science oriented until I realized that what I liked about research was the creative part and trying to figure out how to figure out things.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me that you had that science side as well.
Not so much the math side. I'm really terrible at maths, the whole equations and all the chemistry, all the equations. That
wasn't exactly my strong suit either. I was more in biology, but
yeah, biology.
Yeah, I was in environmental biology, so I didn't go the forensic or epidemiology or pathology route.
Yeah.
So no guts or blood or anything. I guess
I
there
don't
are.
mind. I
I
don't
do
mind.
have vampires, so I do have some blood in my books, but it's a little YA. I'm a little squeamish, as I say.
I love a good YA vampire story.
Which vampire how many vampire books have you read? Or have you read all of them?
Oh, I went through a couple of crazes where I was like picking up every vampire series I could find or every angel series I could find. So I've like pretty much read a lot.
Oh, fun. Yeah. So I've read a lot of vampire books, but I haven't strayed very much. And I wrote my fantasy. It was like, or my fairy fantasy, it was like out there because I never thought I was going to write it. And I hadn't really researched other fairy books. And then after I wrote it, I started researching. I was like, oh, mine's a little different, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So,
Different's good.
yeah. I love, and kind of circling back to the dream, I really love that you had that dream. I had a friend move away recently, and I was sad because I had seen her before, obviously, but I wasn't getting to see her like right before she moved away. And I dreamed, it's kind of a sad dream, but it was a good dream. I dreamed that she died, not that she was moving. I dreamed that she died. So it was super sad. But then she came back as an angel to see me.
Oh.
And then I was just so happy in my dream that I got to see her. And then I called her and told her that. And she was like, she was kind of floored, I think. But anyway, I love dreams like that. And I completely believe
a lot of my stories actually came from dreams. Yeah, a lot of them are from dreams.
Yeah, I haven't done that before. I don't dream like that very often. So I don't know, maybe I'm too tired all the time.
So much anymore. I tend to have less vivid dreams now, but it's mainly when I like, have it's like fever dreams when I'm sick. They're more vivid.
Maybe so. Yeah. I don't know. I wonder if you dream more when you're younger. I don't know. That would be interesting to look up. That's cool. So when you have a dream, do you just wake up and write it down right away so you don't forget it?
Yeah. Or if it's really, really vivid, I can still remember it the next day.
Right. Yeah. So with obviously that one I told you about, I remember that one, but like most of them, if I go back to sleep, I don't remember them. So yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I have my phone next to my bed or, a notepad, and I just write down certain things.
Very cool. Well, Ella Hunter, tell my audience where we can find you and your books.
So my books are available on Apple, Amazon, and Kindle and paperback, and some in audio, and Kobo, Barnes and Noble. I said Apple, didn't I? Yeah, most of the platforms where you buy ebooks. And you can find me, I'm most active on Instagram at LL Hunter, and I'm on TikTok and Twitter and Facebook at LL Hunter Books.
Great. We will have all of our listeners following you. And thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Bye.